Thank you so much, Mr. Surya, for doing
My
this.
pleasure.
You've been an industry veteran, and I think coming from you as insight would be great for our viewers to learn and understand what's next, right, on in the fronts of digital rupee. So my first question is, what steps is RBI taking, in terms of security and privacies of transactions through digital rupee? What's next on
Yeah.
that?
So let's first understand where we are in the journey of digital rupee.
Yeah.
I think we are just at the pilot stage.
Right.
And the pilot stage objectives primarily are to see whether the basic functionality of the transaction, both for retail and wholesale, is working or not.
Right.
And of course, it does include to do all the basic checks around security, privacy.
Right.
And as of now, if you see, it's a very kind of by invite only transaction. Currently, it's exposed only to the bank customers, not yet even to a common man. So all of those customers are completely done and coming through full KYC. And as I said, currently all the security norms that apply in a digital payment world, whether from encryption to security audits, all of those are applicable with the participants in the ecosystem, whether the banks or any other third party service provider.
Right.
So we could say that it is as secure as any other transaction that is happening in the digital world today, and obviously RBI is continuously monitoring it.
Great, fantastic. How will digital rupee impact the financial inclusion and access to the banking services for the unbanked population of our India?
Very good question, because a lot of time people think digital rupee is probably not for the common man,
Right.
and it may not even drive inclusion. So why do we need it?
Right.
And quite often they also confuse it with UPI. This
Yeah.
is just the pipe and this is the money.
Yeah.
So first of all, we have to understand that what digital rupee is. It actually is a physical currency converted into digital.
Right.
And when you look at a physical currency, the key difference between that and any other product, whether it's a prepaid card, whether it's a credit card, whether your bank money, they are all money forms, but they are not necessarily currency.
Right.
Currency has a legal tender, which gives us a power that it is compulsory acceptable by everyone. Also, when you hand over a rupee note at a retail transaction, the transaction is over there. So the payment and the settlement finality is right then there.
Right.
In every other transaction, you have a multiple steps.
Right.
Even take an example of UPI transaction. Let's say I transfer to you as a Khushbu money.
Yeah.
Right. While the credit will appear in your account real time.
Yeah.
Right. There may be some difference over time, etc. Very
Right.
nominal. But at the back end, the two banks who have to, let's say my bank is SDFC, yours is Kotak.
Yeah.
That transfer still has to take later on. Right, which means there's some settlement process pending, and then
Correct.
that leads to certain processes.
Right.
But if we were to do the same thing in a physical rupee, I would have given you the money, the transaction is
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
This is exactly same experience in a digital world.
Correct.
So physical currency today, the biggest limitation that it has is that it does not work in a digital world.
Right.
But digital world is a reality today. So if you have the same physical currency, I call it currency on steroids.
Right.
This is what digital rupee is.
Correct.
So if you first understand this, that this is the money, this is used even today, over 60-70% of retail transactions are by end consumers in physical cash.
Right.
So they like it because of this instant settlement, no questions asked, the transaction then and that over, even smaller value, much faster. So
Yeah.
all those features were missing in every other product.
Right.
So today all those features come. Now to give you one specific example on inclusion.
Yeah.
Let's say today a government wants to transfer some specific benefit to a particular customer. Most
Yeah.
of the scheme requires them to first open a bank account,
Yeah.
then kind of transfer that money through the Aadhaar linked transaction, and then they receive it. And the challenge is that most of these customers can't even keep it in the bank account, because bank
Right.
account is for saving.
Right.
So they have to compulsory go withdraw and then use.
Right.
So if you see the steps for the same work, now compare it to a digital rupee.
Correct.
All you need to know is probably their phone number and the Aadhaar,
Right.
and you can directly send them this to their phone. It's a
Right.
code,
Right.
which is a value.
Right.
Now this, because it is a equal to currency in a digital form, it is immediately usable with all the ecosystem that's available to start accepting it,
Right.
which is increasing rapidly
Right.
and can be increased rapidly at a much later. So the moment you receive the money, you can start using it.
Right.
And then if you have extra saving from them, then the banking step comes, that you could go and deposit in the bank account.
Right.
So if you see from the step, from the cost, from the efficiency, at the speed which you could deliver,
Yeah.
and also this being a programmable money.
Yeah.
If the government want to say that, okay, I will restrict this particular money only for medicine,
Right.
I will restrict this only for rationing.
Mhm.
So you could also do those programming which today you cannot do, let's say, in a physical currency.
Right.
So
Right.
I personally believe this is a big tool, and this is the real answer to a physical currency transaction. This is the only product compared to everything else that exists in the market
Right.
which can actually compete with physical cash.
Right. Got it. Excellent. And what are the potential challenges and risk associated with the introduction of digital rupee, and how does RBI plan to address them?
Yeah. So while I'm not the right person to talk on behalf of RBI, but as a
Yeah.
general practitioner, we could say the challenges. I think any new product has multiple challenges.
Correct.
This is the first new concept.
Correct.
The technology stack is new,
Yeah.
and that's why we are still calling it pilot, or let's say the ecosystem is still in a pilot phase.
Yeah.
Because when you launch something new, you always have some newer discoveries, sometimes challenges, sometimes opportunities, sometimes threats. So you have to look at all of that.
Right.
Fundamentally, the biggest challenge currently is about understanding this concept.
Mhm.
Educating and financial services education is always a bit of a challenge
Right.
for customer to understand the difference, for an example, between a bank money, currency, etc. And we don't expect them to understand all of it so
Right.
well, right? That's our job
Right.
as the ecosystem. But let me simplify and say that this has similar risk like a physical currency.
Mhm.
You lose your money, you lose it.
Mhm.
So you lose your, while it has some advantage because it's digital, so you have a resource back, or let's say recourse back with your passwords, with your wallets. But
Right.
fundamentally, it has a similar risk because you have given the money, and if you have given it wrongly, unless you know the person, you will not get it. So
Right.
again, the risk and challenges are similar. Challenges are more in terms of newer concept. How do you kind of educate it? How do you get the new technology to work for you better?
Mhm.
Those are the challenges, and
Right.
obviously that is why the Reserve Bank has gone with the pilot. They are increasing the ecosystem gradually. They're not going as a big bang approach.
Right.
They are again going case by case use cases. Not all things are opened up. For example,
Correct.
international transactions are not yet open on this.
Correct.
Right. So
Correct.
all of those will be done in phases.
Phases. Absolutely. Can you explain the technological infrastructure,
Yeah.
that will support the digital rupee, and how it will be integrated to the existing financial systems?
So the first part, I'm not the right person. I think you have the
Yeah.
audience here, which is the
Yes.
well equipped to answer about the technology stack and how it works. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's fundamentally a DLT stack that they're working along with some sort of a rails with the bank. But the second part,
Yeah.
how does it interface with the rest of the ecosystem? I think that's very important. So in our country, the entire payment and settlement infrastructure works on a principle of interoperability.
Mhm.
So even today, if you see when the digital rupee is launched, it works already with the banking ecosystem. It already works with the bank's existing merchant network. So gradually they are phasing it out just to kind of monitor it.
Right.
But because of this interoperable network concept, whatever
Right.
products you launch, eventually this product will work everywhere where your bank money, debit card, credit card works, because it is inbuilt in the
Correct.
system design.
Correct.
So you will see that ecosystem integration automatically in this scheme also.
Okay.
It's just because of the pilot phase is going gradually.
Okay, awesome. How will the digital rupee foster innovation in fintech and drive entrepreneurship in
Interesting,
India?
Interesting. So I think if you look at very simply even a UPI journey,
Yeah.
that how many fintechs it created, how many even big techs got interested, how many banks have also become very big in a digital payment just by
Correct.
being part of the ecosystem. Same way I believe CBDC in its full blown capacity in 5 to 10 years time will be probably 10 to 20x of this, or potentially even more, because it's a
Right.
tech in cans. So if you see from that perspective, this is money. So wherever physical money today gets used, it will kind of get subsumed into this. Not everything, but
Yeah.
major part of it.
Mhm.
Especially where the consumer does not have any, let's say, any reason to hide the cash transaction, or let's say do some tax evasion. If those issues are not there, you would actually prefer to use it, because
Right.
the experience, if you really use it, I as a user know that this is much better.
Right.
So from that perspective, there are newer opportunities that are emerging for the financial services ecosystem, including new entrepreneur and fintechs.
Mhm.
I mean, there will be newer concepts. For example, why can't users simply disburse loans in a digital currency,
Right.
especially small value,
Right.
which are fungible, usable. The entire microfinance industry can actually work on digital rupee much
Right.
more seamlessly,
Right.
much better, much faster.
Right.
So there are some new stream and new thinking
Mhm.
that will come in.
Right.
And I think that is a huge opportunity for the newer startups to start thinking. Even existing players who are working, they will have to get ready to start integrating it and become interoperable. So again, there
Correct.
will be opportunities for people to work with them, get them ready to start using this.
Correct, correct. Great conversation so far. I think I have my one last question. What opportunities, I mean, you did mention that it'll, the plan is, of course, to be, growing this in phases. What opportunities does digital rupee present for foreign investors and
Yeah.
businesses integrated to operate in India?
So I would say that the opportunities for all investors, whether foreign or India,
Yeah.
obviously as these new ecosystem, new players come in, as they kind of come up with some newer ideas, obviously the investors would be looking at that as an opportunity to invest.
Right.
I personally believe that this is just the start. If you look at the areas today, you're talking about person to person transaction in domestic retail,
Yeah.
right? You're talking about person to business transaction in the again retail.
Right.
Wholesale, you've just talked about currently government securities settlement.
Right.
Now, if you again, these are all domestic. Now, the moment you layer it with international,
Yeah.
and the moment you lay it with other services that you do, whether it's a lending side, whether it's a insurance side, there are all kind of a ecosystem where the money gets used.
Correct. Correct.
If you kind of take those interactions out and then you start integrating those, you
Yeah.
suddenly realize that the opportunities are much bigger for investors as well as businesses.
Right.
And wherever the physical money or a regular money today gets used in some form or say, I think this will play a very huge role.
Right.
And like I gave you example UPI. Imagine those two banks today, they have to do a settlement on a batch basis, which needs to a lot of other processes,
Yeah.
right, of reconciliations, etc. If you have a CBDC wholesale token behind those banks,
Yeah.
which on a real-time basis getting, let's say, as we are getting debit and credit in our
Sure.
account there, so
Yeah.
even the settlement is done right there.
Correct.
And again, the same thing can go into even international trade.
Correct.
So there are so many examples which are underway, and as I said, it's an evolving process, like other systems and processes evolve.
Right.
So I think it's a very interesting ecosystem for everybody, even in this room. Just one opportunity for all the people in the room. RBI also does a hackathon regularly called Harbinger, and they've again asked for two cohorts. One is for offline transaction. By offline, they mean devices without internet, which means a device to device transaction, right? How can that be done? So again, they're looking for pilots and ideas. Second is they're looking at increasing the TSP. Obviously, that's a big challenge in blockchain. So I'm sure a lot of people in the audience will already be thinking and working.
Yeah.
But if they have ideas, they should again connect RBI and then present their ideas, put it to test. And these
Right.
are all entrepreneur investment, all kind of opportunities.
Right, right. Great, great conversation with you,
you.
Naveen. Thank you so much for taking out
My
time
pleasure.
from your busy schedule and joining us today on the CIA News All Things BFSI and FinTech Summit 2023. It is my honor to have this conversation with you, learn, from your experience and your perspectives for Digital Rupee. Thank you so much once again for joining
Thank you,
us.
Khushbu, and thanks for inviting me and being part of this interesting event. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good.